Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast, and what a month the last week has been. I'm Justin Phillips, and with me as always is someone who has been cooking this week on social media, Shadow Governor Voss.
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
And yes, we are talking about the big news, the thing that we predicted would happen. Sara Rodriguez has dropped out of the governor's race, and even crazier, David Crowley has announced he is jumping back in the race, and honestly, we're kind of reacting to this in real time. There are so many X-posts of all of the takes on this, so many different angles. We're going to try to get to all of them, but on top of that, we've got a great interview coming up with you with the Republican Attorney General candidate, Eric Toney. It was really cool to sit down with him. We actually react to Sara Rodriguez's news in real time there too, so you're not going to want to miss that. But Shadow Gov, we could spend the entire episode reading people's tweets and reacting to their takes on Sara Rodriguez dropping out. But where do you want to start?
I want to start very simply with Sara Rodriguez, who could not be a good lieutenant governor, who couldn't gain any name ID, couldn't use her office to her advantage to eventually run for governor. She couldn't do that. She couldn't put together a decent campaign, anemic at best. Some fundraising, yes, but anemic for someone that, got in the race first.
Yes.
Was kind of seen as, trying to buddy up with Tony Evers to maybe get that endorsement.
She was the Spitfire suburban mom that was ready to work for the state.
Flipped a red seat blue in Waukesha County and could get her done in the general election. All of that to the financial disaster. She has 200,000, or first she has $1 million and a half, down to 200,000 to 300 or to 35,000, back to 600,000, then back to 35,000.
That was where you knew, like, first off, it was like an episode of Veep going on with her campaign.
How much money do we have?
And then for it to go so far, like the embarrassment from that, you knew in that moment it was just a matter of time. When was she going to drop out?
And obviously, to the average person, they're probably getting all of that information. Like, they don't see the blow by blow. Yeah. They don't see the we have 200,000, now we have 34, now we have 600, now we have 34 again. They don't see. They just see financial scandal, dropped out.
Yep.
So it seems like a natural progression. Meanwhile, we're over here watching blow by blow, and we're like, what is going on?
Day by day, minute by minute.
However, my absolute favorite is obviously at the time of recording this morning when she posted her video.
Yes.
And she said, I cannot in good conscience allow these questions to become a cloud over the election that Democrats need to win. Wisconsin deserves better than that. And through her entire statement, she never said the words, I'm suspending my campaign. I am ending my campaign for governor. And so the media was like, are you dropping out? This sounds like a dropout, but are you? And then she had to post a follow-up tweet with the same video saying, I'm ending my campaign officially.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of from start to finish, it's been the same thing.
Yeah.
Sara never learned anything. It never got better. Like this is a test case in bad campaigning from start to finish. From the very beginning of her campaign where they listed the video earlier.
A week early before Tony Evers
said that he was going to not run again, all the way to not being able to post a tweet saying, I'm suspending or I'm ending my campaign for governor. Like just from start to finish.
Terrible.
Bookends.
So,
and we should have seen this probably. I mean, we've always we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Our followers, the people listening, you guys are smart enough. You heard it, not necessarily from us. I think you guys are all smart enough to come to these conclusions yourself. But hopefully you've heard from us as well that we've been sounding this alarm long ago, and it's good to be right. It's nice, Cheers to us.
So here's my thing: is that we've seen campaigns implode because of personal scandals recently, like Graham Plantner, Eric Swalwell, Bill Berrien, right here in the state. Like they have blown up over misconduct issues, some creepy, weird stuff. I don't think I've ever seen a campaign completely implode because of bad staff work and a candidate that can't make an adjustment. She invented an entirely new way to humiliate herself. Think about it. She drops out on Monday. She saves so much face. She actually,
Just
people like us,
cut it off.
Then it's only people like us, people at the Heartland Post, who are talking about Kara Spencer's terrible campaign work and how she was actually like has a huge rap sheet of bad financial management, being sued by car companies or, dealerships and landlords over failure to make payments, sort of thing. But then it's just us. And then we're picking on a staffer who was fired, and it's no one's going to pay attention. She's staying in and making these errors, and error after error after error, drew the attention of everyone on X. It wasn't just conservative election Twitter.
Everybody.
This was leftist media Twitter. This was the DSA left piling on. This was Drake Bentley piling on. Everyone was just taking their shot at a very embarrassed Sara Rodriguez, who now she's got to move to a different state and go by Russell again. Like,
just drop the Rodriguez and go Sarah Russell.
Yeah.
Moves or go back to nursing something, because politics, it's over.
Yes.
Like no one's, and I honestly feel a little bad. And I'll tell you why. Sarah was in over her skis pretty much since day one. She won, like we've said this a million times. She wins one assembly seat, instantly gets, promoted, or I don't want to say promoted, but like, hey, that's a big thing to flip a seat. And then she runs for lieutenant governor, and she's basically been in over her skis basically since then. I don't know if it's just like from a lack of trying, but like all of her problems stem from, like you said, staff. And obviously she has her own issues, but she's still an okay politician.
We just laid out what her campaign should have been. The spunky mom who flipped a red seat. You just said it. I just said it. Like, that campaign is 100 times better than what she did. And that press conference she held, we talked about how much of a disaster it was. Now, I want to just tag on to this, that we kind of made fun of the crisis comms. Like, it was made very well known very quickly that there was a crisis or communication firm that came in to consult. And I just saw one today from Mary Spicuzza, who says that Sara Rodriguez still owes them the $45,000 they charged, which, if there's anything about a candidate who has terrible job managing her finances, maybe get some of the money up front.
I mean, maybe, just maybe on that, but that's for her to figure out. And maybe that was part of the reason why she stayed in. Like, maybe I can get some money to pay these people back, type of thing.
That was our speculation.
Yep. That was one speculation. However, if you think about the timeline here, obviously she tried to do this big ad buy. It didn't work out. She supposedly found out about the ad after the fact that it didn't go up on air, but she did put out another ad. She had another ad that was in the hopper. And so they did put money behind that.
Yeah.
And I believe her campaign spent $120,000 on ads. And her last TV ad still has about 77,000. And this is from a post that was actually today, that is scheduled to air through 7/24.
So she's going to have to cancel those buys, I assume.
I'm assuming.
But also, like, I don't know how far.
I don't know what the policy is on rescinding those when they've already made the purchase, type of thing. So it does sound like Sarah was really, really intent on still running. You put that money down. Even if you have an inkling that you're going to drop out, you probably don't hold on. You probably hold on.
You hold that money. You make sure your vendors are paid that you already did. You make sure your staff is paid through like the end of August, if you can, until they get their other job. So one thing you kind of touched on it. You tweeted about this. Is Sarah actually, with all of this news, elevating her name ID with a month to go, that this is the only name people are going to remember walking into the voting booth? I know you're talking about a primary electorate, which is usually very informed, but are people going to, who show up that they think they need to vote, going to vote because they remember Sara Rodriguez being in the news?
Well, it's not a huge ad to begin with. However, there is a non-zero chance that there are voters that see this ad like, oh yeah, Sarah. Oh, yeah, it looks good, and vote for her,
especially
not knowing that she dropped out.
Especially that the ones that I know was posted today that they're probably close to 68,000, if not more,
absentee ballots
that have been returned.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, if you're
And they
someone
can't change them.
right, so if you're someone who has an absentee ballot right now, just heard all of this stuff about Sara, saw her on the news, you think, oh yeah, sure, cool, she seems like the right one. You put it in, you forget about it. So do you think Sara gets more than 5% of the vote?
Well, we'll have to wait till we
Sure.
get a little bit closer to election day to give my final predictions.
Mm-hmm.
However, all of these votes they're going nowhere. They're just dead votes. And of course, Sara, I don't think she's going to endorse anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone wants her endorsement to begin with.
No.
So if people just see Sara Rodriguez ad, they see her name on the ballot. I mean, there's going to be a smattering of people that still vote for her or have already voted for her, mm-hmm. or might even vote for her in protest or something.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know what her final percentage is going to be, but it's probably, I would assume, north of 6 or 7%, but that's south of 15, probably somewhere in there. I mean, if she's cracking double digits,
ooh, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem for someone. And I don't know who, but where does Sara voters go?
Well, we can talk about that now, because perfect segue. Man, that was like the volleyball setup to spike it. Insiders this morning, the rumor came up so quickly, it just snowballed. It became this giant tsunami of.
It was like what? The video came out by 9:30, and by 10:30, there was this.
There was insiders talking about how they were talking to David Crowley about getting back in the race, and then that picked up a bit more and says that people are saying, well, there's a pretty good chance he gets in Saturday. Then Crowley took a page out of Sara Rodriguez's book and put up a bunch of campaign events that he was going to be attending. And you realize, he's getting back in. And now, as we're talking about this, there's rumors that tomorrow, not only will David Crowley get back in the race, but he will get the endorsement of the sitting governor, Tony Evers. And we've seen this before with Democrats. They're calling it an establishment coup. It
is. There's no and ifs or buts about it now. I know, little right-wing media, it's a coup. The establishment's taking over. A little bit of showmanship there. Mm-hmm. No, it's actually, it's real. Mm-hmm. There is no, I know everyone's, Sarah's the establishment's pick. Oh, it's Crowley for sure. There's no doubt about it. So, and of course, originally, Tony said, I kind of want to let the process play out. I don't know if I'll endorse, but he seemed pretty ho-hum about endorsing and allowing the process to take shape.
He certainly started off by saying he wasn't going to endorse Sara. He said he was going to always think, I would never close the door completely, but, Sara was in the race and they asked, who are you going to endorse? He's like, well, someone gets in that I like just a straight shot over the bow.
And of course, he's had, again, if you've been following us for since last September, you would know that we've talked many times about how Tony will drop these little comments in saying, I certainly wouldn't, if I were her, I wouldn't do it that way type of thing. Yeah. I remember after she released her ICE plan, he criticized her, among other things. So for anyone with a heartbeat and a pulse, understand that Tony likes Crowley. And Tony's like, well, I'm not going to endorse anyone. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have my State of the State address. The only person I'm going to invite is David Crowley. Here's this conveniently placed photo of me and David Crowley, but let's not mention that he's also running for governor, completely unrelated.
Yep.
So you read between the lines, you see, the Evers staff, you see who they're kind of pushing or defending, you put it together. It's David Crowley. But we have to talk about, of course, the point that David Crowley, he's got more momentum now than he ever did
when he was
actually running.
Yeah.
When he announced, there's a lot of very, very diehard supporters for Crowley, but they're pretty few and pretty niche. But this is the most energy he's had as of yet. But people are kind of forgetting this guy had dropped out for a reason.
Yes. He was always polling at or near the bottom.
Single digits.
Yep.
5%.
Yep. Barely above Joel Brennan.
It was kind of seen of a disappointment. High ceiling, lots of potential, and he kind of fell on its face.
We ripped him pretty regularly for running the campaign of a suburban white woman. His entire message was stuff that he had no business. talking about or was not in his wheelhouse. Like, he was rarely talking about being the executive, being a guy who's made the tough decisions, done the budget. He was talking about climate change and abortion rights,
but
and
you kind of have to at the same time.
But it seems so disingenuous when it was him.
It just seemed like, dude, you're the executive guy. Run only on that.
Exactly.
But you have to placate. You got to do the anti-ice stuff. You got to do the data center stuff. You got to do the green climate stuff at the same time. But it was just lackluster. And he had 5%. There's a reason he dropped out.
Exactly.
There's a reason he got a call, or someone got a call and told him, "Hey, buddy, we like you, David, but Ryan's on the wall here." Okay, that was a week ago. All right, we're a week later, and now he's the best thing since sliced bread. Like, do the Democrats understand how delusional they are? Like,
right, that they think they can insert someone who dropped out, who was polling at the bottom, back in and make him the guy now.
And of course, it is possible he could win. I mean, let's think about, we got the fundamentals here. He's got money, $300,000. He's going to get the Tony Evers endorsement, the normal person endorsement. Okay, that's a huge asset. That probably propels him instantly into second or third. Third for sure.
He takes over third from Calda.
Yes. Yes. But does it put him squarely in the second? I don't know. He gets the machine behind him. There's going to be a Tony Evers machine. Does Ben Wickler come in?
Right. Now that Tony's picked a guy, like, now can JB Pritzker drop in some cash? But he could. It's probable.
Yeah.
But let's remember, right now, as of this recording, there are 24 days left.
Yeah, it's not even a month.
Like, you have to have
Kamala had 3-4 months, right?
And you still have to blanket the airways, and $300,000, $500,000, $600,000 really doesn't do that. And
you got to be smart. You got to generate a lot of earned media. You got to be able to generate something for yourself. And obviously, the Evers. I mean, how much is Evers going to do? Is he going to go campaign the state with him?
Yeah,
he might
for a day. They're going to go to ice cream shops together, and like, that's about it.
But like, even then, it's like, what, 2.5 weeks? I mean, really, the last week, the bird is cooked. Like, there's only so much you can move at that point.
Every day, more and more absentee or early voting happens. More of those absentee ballots come in, and if people don't know yet, and we're terminally online election Twitter people. Like, we watched again as it happened, minute by minute, going from a rumor he was getting back in all the way to he's back in and Tony's endorsement.
Well, of course, I always thought the rumor was never going to be a rumor. That's because people realize, this is rumored to happen. Meanwhile, he's going to do it, but he needs time to set up his website.
Yeah, they got to hire some staff back.
They got to hire some. Hey, I know I called you a week ago. Have you found anything yet?
Yeah,
come back on. We got 3 weeks.
But you got to run a bare bones operation. Like, you got to bring back a comms person.
So do you bring back new people?
Like,
do you bring back the people that ran your campaign previously that apparently didn't get you more than 5%?
That's a good. Or do you have Tony's people paratroop in for a month?
Probably. If I'm David,
but you only have a month.
I'm doing that.
There's not, a lot of the cake's been baked. There's only so much time to cut that ad, to get it on TV, and get it to a saturation point with the Democrat audience.
I mean, I think they can cut an ad pretty quickly. I don't think that's the problem. I just think it's a month left. I don't know. I mean, are there going to be a bunch of day of voters that decide and they split one way or another? Meanwhile, Crowley, like I said, he's got, his 5% or whatever. And this, of course, I can't take credit for this little joke, but quote, unsatisfied with a candidate who can't manage her campaign finances, the Dem establishment is now setting their sights on a candidate who can't manage their county's finances.
Yeah.
So,
of course, the show,
Eric Brooks for
that one. We could have spent the entire time reading just Eric Brooks.
I know, but I wanted to get that one in at least.
That is a S tier attack on David immediately.
If you were listening, David Crowley had his little mishap with his county healthcare, where the county employees' healthcare lapsed, and not a great look for someone that's running on the executive leadership. So, needless to say, the establishment is in full swing, and I expect the full force of the establishment to back David. But yeah, I'm just not seeing how they can get Chase Hong, who is kind of looking from the sidelines.
Yeah.
She hasn't really entered the fray. She's kind of said if David gets back in, he gets back in. That's kind of him on him. But I'm thinking that as long as Hong doesn't have an absolute meltdown, I don't, I'm not seeing it. Or David goes scorched earth. Like,
yeah, he has to attack Francesca.
He's got to attack a friend.
Yeah.
He's got to be the clear. I mean, elections are not, everyone thinks elections are like, I need to placate all of the positions possible to get the maximum coalition, when it's really about like making the clear, this person stands for this and this one stands for that, and they're different.
Like, he's going to have to run on, I'm not a socialist. I'm not going to defund the police. And he's going to have to show that like his numbers for the county actually make police hiring okay or something. Like, he's going to have something in that, because that's your distinction with Francesca. Like, we've talked about how those are minority positions. I wrote for the Heartland Post on how socialism could be the new Dobbs. And if that is the case, then yeah, the thing you attack is that I think people are too afraid of the socialist wave that's coming through, that they don't want to stand up, or they don't want to speak out as another candidate and be like, I'm not for these things. So he has to like play that pragmatic moderate now to a T. And still, I don't know. I just truly cannot say with confidence that the establishment is going to get this across the finish line, because I don't think any of the other candidates are going to drop out except one, and it's Joel Brennan. And I think that doesn't matter, but Joel rolled out a pretty mediocre, forgettable endorsement today. And do you do that on a Friday when you're going to drop out on Monday or Tuesday? It's 3 weeks to go. Like, his window to drop out was convention.
Sarah, put out a ad really like the day before.
But that's different.
She dropped out
because that was all bad staff. Like, her staff was hiding her financial status, and again, could be criminal. But that's not going on with Joel. Joel released his Oppo file. There's nothing in there. He took the extra slice of pizza at a party when someone else wanted it. Like, he didn't say how watch out for deer to his neighbors. Like, that's his Oppo file. So he's not the I just think that, like, with the exception of Joel, you can't get any of the other candidates out.
I mean, as we kind of discussed in the pregame here, you would have to promise the moon to some of these people in order to get them to drop out.
Right.
And I don't know what that is. I don't know what their selling point is for some of these people. So
Joel probably is not going to drop out, but like I said, you have to promise the moon to Kelda to drop out. You're not going to get Mandela Barnes to drop out because he thinks there's a path to victory. You're not going to get Francesca Hong to drop out because she knows there's a path to victory.
Mm-hmm.
So
what do you have left?
Exactly. You have,
what's the play?
Hope for a majority, 40% of the vote through getting most of the undecideds.
You do a lot of praying, and I don't think it's going to be enough. And frankly, when has this ever worked out for Democrats? When has rigging their primary ever really worked out?
And when has it ever worked for a candidate from Milwaukee? Democrats have been pushing candidates from Milwaukee or getting them through primaries for a long time now. And ask Tom Barrett how many times he lost statewide office running as the Milwaukee congressman or the mayor of Milwaukee.
And of course, the primary base from 2018 to 2026 is light years different. And I mean, Francesca Hong commands 30% of the electorate of the primary electorate in the Democrat Party, like, without a doubt, like no question. I mean, if they screw her over, I mean, there will be levels of disaster that I don't think the Democrats are quite ready for. I mean, I'm seeing just in my casual doom scrolling on Instagram, I'm seeing people talk about this. Just random people talking about the Democrat primary, like, oh, Tony Evers, please stay out of this. Like, we want Fran. Like, we're sick and tired of being, oppressed by this, fascist regime in Washington, but we need Fran to fight back. So I have no idea what will happen if they actually screw them.
Yeah, there's a lot of Kelda or bust. I mean, do you really want Hassan Piker and Mike from PA out there going, don't vote for the establishment right-wing Democrat, which is like the new thing. I don't know if you saw this. I started noticing it, that they're like the establishment right-wing Democrats now. Like,
yeah, I know. I did see that.
That's the new label for them. But yeah, do you want Hassan Piker and Mike from PA going at those and being like, don't vote for David Crowley, stay home, telling Madison Democrats to vote for if there's a third party that's viable, not viable, but like on the ballot, or write in someone, like write in Francesca Hong.
I just love the shameless spin. It's like the people that were supporting Sara last week are like, yes, I love David Crowley. He's my favorite politician. We need to elect him. Mm-hmm. It's like, guys, Sara at least had 15% in her like last poll.
Yeah.
Crowley had 5%.
Exactly.
And I think it's a little bit delusional.
Mm-hmm. The one I want to talk about now, though, is Mandela Barnes. Who, he put out a statement that was, again, the knives are out. I'm going to read a little bit of this, but it says that David Crowley left this race for a reason. After nearly an entire year in the race, the only attention he received was for a major healthcare scandal that threw Milwaukee residents off their insurance. He and his allies spent nearly $1 million, but gained absolutely no traction and was stuck in the single digits. Now, I came from Mandela's campaign manager Darby O'Connor. So now with 3 weeks left to go in the election, yes, and they're one of many campaigns that was talking about how there's nearly 70,000 ballots that have been turned in. Kelda was on this. She called it, what was like anti-democratic or something. She went on this, post about that. It's a huge problem for democracy that there's 68,000, almost 70,000 absentee ballots that have been turned in.
It's like guys like early voting.
Right. But Mandela,
how is that our fault?
Yeah. But my point for this is that like Mandela his team is coming after Crowley and going to attack him. He is not getting out of the race. But again, terminally online election Twitter did pick up on a little bit of gossipy chatter. Now, we've danced around this. I might have said it outright if we were having one of our a cocktail during the episode. But Mandela has a bit of a checkered past when it comes to his dating and relationships in a way that could allow the establishment left to run the Graham Plantner Oppo file on Mandela.
Yeah,
and this is speculation. Yeah. This is alleged. I'm not saying he's doing any of the things that Graham Plantner did. Don't hear what I'm not saying.
But this is what is swirling on the underbelly of some of these forums and stuff, which often are not the best places for truth seeking. Mm-hmm. However, if I'm Mandela Barnes, or if I'm David Crowley, and the only way I think Francesca Hong loses is if Mandela Barnes is out.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get him out? And again, you can't promise him anything, so you have to go the other route, and that's we have
everything on you.
Yep.
But the thing is if you're Mandela,
you got nothing to lose.
You got nothing to lose, and you gotta survive 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to drop out the week before, right?
No.
You've been polling at second place this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so if you're, there are so many calculations to consider that I would never want to do if I'm a campaign, because guess what? They're all horrible.
Right.
If you're David, do you attack everybody in hopes of winning?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you piss everyone off.
Mm-hmm.
But do you just rely on the Tony Evers endorsement and hope everyone consolidates?
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't win? And then you didn't do everything you need to do to actually, win the primary. You go too hard, you piss everyone off. You don't go hard enough, you don't win. They're going to have to, the knives are already out.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of shanking going around. And frankly, I agree with the Mandela campaign. There's a reason Crowley got out. So it's only going to snowball. And buckle up, people. 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah, still the election, but let's not forget that 8 days from when this pod comes out, we're getting a governor's debate.
Oh my good Lord. I totally forgot.
Yeah.
We're going to have a debate.
Yeah. And Crowley's going to assume he's going to be there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll definitely be there.
It's the one on TV. It's the one you got to think everyone, maybe Joel Brennan's not. Do you think there's 4 or 5 podiums at the Weasler Auditorium?
I don't know. See, the thing is Brennan's numbers weren't horrible. His finances weren't horrible. The problem is Crowley kind of takes his lane back. Poor Joel Brennan.
Yeah.
He gets in as kind of the normal guy. Then he's like, oh, Sara got knocked out. I can fully take over.
Yes.
Crowley's out. Sarah's out. This is
Yep.
my lane now.
Yep.
My lane. And then he gets back in. I mean, poor guy has just had it rough the entire time.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll just go just for,
just for
the
funsies.
funsies.
Right.
I've got the money.
Yep.
I know I'm not going to maybe make it, but maybe I'll get back in the admin.
You know, he's like, if there's 5 people in the race, all I need is 21%. Like,
you need a plurality. You don't need a majority.
Like he's got to think that, his ceiling is not 33 to 50%. His ceiling's 22%. And maybe, in a 5-person race.
And maybe he's hoping that there's enough chaos that he just, sneaks his way through. I mean, really, honestly, that the calculus could be, there's so many different factors, so many scenarios that if I'm Joel, maybe I do stay in,
Right. And now as Francesca Hong's perspective, right, she has to stay out of this as much as possible. And that's going to be really tough for her because they're going to come attack her I think they have to attack her from the right.
Yeah.
Like
if
she's
I'm
too far left. She's too far left. We need sensible, pragmatic Democrats.
And you probably hit her on public safety. It's probably the most obvious. But
and one thing I wanted to bring up regarding the Sara Rodriguez financial scandal is that there should be a criminal investigation into this. And Eric Toney did put out a press release today demanding a probe of the Rodriguez campaign from Attorney General Josh Kaul, or to Attorney General Josh Kaul. He says, you don't get a free pass just because you dropped out. And if you want to hear me talk to Eric Toney, stick around for a great interview I had with him today. Again, we reacted to Sarah's news in real time, talked about how important it is to have a Republican governor and Republican AG, and he told a lot about his background and how he served as Fond du Lac DA for, I think, 14 years now, and he's got a lot of stuff to talk about from that. So hope you enjoyed the interview. I want to welcome to the show someone who I've been a fan of for a very long time and someone who's been one of the hardest working campaigners, especially over the past few years, Eric Toney. He's the Fond du Lac County District Attorney, 2024's DA of the Year, and the Republican taking on Josh Kaul for Attorney General this November. He's got a hell of a resume as a DA and something we're going to touch on. It's been a long time coming, and it's an honor and a privilege to welcome Eric to the pod. Hello, sir.
Well, Justin, it's great to be with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on and for all the work that you guys do and helping us get our message out. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so give us a quick highlight reel of the 2026 campaign so far. What are you hearing from voters and what made you want to run for Attorney General this time?
Well, what I'm hearing as I'm traveling around the state is people are tired of the broken promises from Josh Kaul, and they want real common sense leadership at our Department of Justice, where we're actually going to make public safety that number one priority, not the number one talking point that we've seen from our Attorney General. And, it's I ran in 2022. We got within 35,000 votes out of about 2.6 million cast, but we were outspent about 5-1 in that race. And so one of the things, if I were to ever run again, I knew that we'd have to fix the finance side of things, but I wasn't sure if I would do it because anybody that's done statewide or worked on a campaign knows how tough these races are with how big Wisconsin is. You get to meet so many wonderful people, but it's a huge commitment. And so for me, I knew that I was going to want to run again back in 2023. And that was as I was looking at having open heart surgery at 39 years old. And it was a big shock for me because I ran cross country and track in college. I've done 7 marathons since then, and I was in good shape. But what I learned was I was born with a defective heart valve. That bacteria, kind of a freak situation, got in and just destroyed my valve. And so I ended up inpatient on a Sunday, and then the next day, Monday, was when I learned I had to have the surgery. And then they said, we're going to try and do it the following week, Wednesday. So, I mean, there's such a compressed time frame. And so what I started doing, I think like most of us would do, is reflecting on my life and just thinking about what I've done, what I get to do as a district attorney. I was born and raised in Fond du Lac County. My dad was a police officer here for over 30 years. My grandfather started a small healthcare business. It's home. And I get to help keep my family, my friends, and my community safe. And it was just such a great feeling knowing that I had lived a life that mattered. I got to make a difference and I got to help people. And we've gotten to do some great things as a team with the staff in my office, our law enforcement, the support from our county board, our county executive, where we're very aggressive in going after criminals, and then being president of our district attorneys association with some of the great budget success we've had in that bipartisan process. That's when I knew that if that surgery went well, I was going to want to run for attorney general again and try and take some of that great success we've done as a team here in Fond du Lac County to our Department of Justice in Madison that can help protect all of Wisconsin. But kind of like I said before, it's a huge commitment, and I had to see a change on what that side would look
Mhm.
like. And on that front, we've assembled a fantastic team. We have set some non-incumbent fundraising records for each of the last two
Mhm.
fundraising periods. And in the most recent one, it was even a record for a Republican candidate. So we've closed that finance gap. We've got more work to do, but the message is resonating across Wisconsin, and people are ready for a change at the Department of Justice. And I'm excited to be in the race to make that change.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I totally forgot you had that open heart surgery, but I think we're all very glad it's been as successful as it was for you, and you're back up. And are you still running marathons now, or do you have a little bit of a limit? You got
A
to go down
little.
to 5K or
Yeah, not
something.
quite as much time these days, but after that surgery, I was back to work part time, and it was about 2 weeks. Within a month, it was full time. I ran a 5K 6 weeks after, and did a murder trial 8 weeks afterwards. So the
Golly.
surgery went well. Really blessed to have such an amazing medical team, doctors, nursing staff, the facility. I had it done here in Fond du Lac, and kind of interesting with Tim Michaels having been our gubernatorial nominee in 22, be on the ticket with him. His family had actually donated a large amount of money to the
Oh,
hospital in
wow.
Fond du Lac that opened up that type of heart facility that we have. And so it was just kind of interesting seeing that connection with Tim, and just really appreciative of his family's efforts.
Oh, that's fantastic. So. Yeah, let's touch on this quick. You kind of brought it up, but this is a rematch from 2022 between you and Josh Kaul. You said you came within a few thousand votes of knocking him off. So what feels different about this race? I know you talked a little bit about the fundraising, but is there anything else you've learned from that first time, and how you fixed or improved things for this go?
We've got a largely new team. We had a great team last time, but we've got some really good people on the team again this time, which I'm really excited about. And when we look at the messaging, we're laser focused on what some of those broken promises are, and driving that message. Where when we ran in 2022, we were, I don't want to say trying to create the narrative, but when you try to get the data behind that, brick wall that is the lack of transparency from our attorney general. And that's not a secret from some of the reporting that we've seen, where it's taken over 5 years, I think, for them to respond to some public record requests. It was almost like we were trying to, like, I don't want to say create an issue, but we didn't have publicly available data to drive it. And now when we look at those broken promises with the forensic testing at the crime labs, we're pulling
Mhm.
data that's in, from the public radio, the Journal Sentinel, other mainstream media outlets, to show these failures and how massive of a broken promise this is. So the messaging is significantly tighter and better, and we've not having a primary has been a huge boost as well. It was a very challenging primary. I mean, I will say, when you go through a primary like that, it makes you a stronger candidate with the other candidates that were in that race, and appreciate their efforts to try to help move Wisconsin forward as well. But not having that primary now has been a huge boost for us. It certainly helps in the fundraising side of things and getting across the state. And then having that endorsement from the convention in May from the state party has been a huge lift as well. So we're seeing a lot of positives. Not seeing a gubernatorial primary, I think, has been very helpful. One of the other areas, too, that probably doesn't get talked about as much, there's no federal race on the ticket this time like there was in 2022. I think it's probably the first time since 2014 that we've seen that in a midterm election. So we've got a lot of things moving well for us, but I think any of us that have been around politics here in Wisconsin know statewide races are tough regardless of what cycle it is. And so we have to battle our way all the way to the finish on November 3rd.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about your fundraising numbers. You hit 1.1 million, which is, I believe, more than you raised in all of 2022. It's record breaking for a non-incumbent candidate. Just I talk about that enthusiasm now, and how that's got to feel great, I guess, to say to raise that
It-
much
you
money
know,
right now.
I got into the 2022 race in April of 2021. And so, you know, almost 2 years in that race, and we've already raised more at this point in that entire race combined. And that really is showing the energy that we're seeing out there. We don't just see it on the grassroots when I'm going to conservative events or when I'm going to nonpartisan events, but we're seeing it from donors, not just people that can write a large check, but the small checks as well. People that, maybe $10, $100 can go a long way for them, but they're investing in this race because they see they want an attorney general that's actually going to put public safety over politics and hold Josh Kaul accountable for those broken promises. So I'm incredibly excited about how the fundraising has gone, but we know with, less than 4 months to go until election day, there is a lot of hard work to go, and we need everybody to continue moving forward with us. And we haven't won anything yet, and we've got to keep moving forward with the hard work.
Exactly, and like you said, there's no primary this time, pretty much across the board. I mean, for attorney general, for governor, the big ones, not having that primary means you can focus on November right away. You don't have to worry about like how to differentiate yourself from your opponent or bring your opponent's supporters over to your side. That's got to be helpful.
It's incredibly helpful, and we took, I would say, a calculated risk when I got into the race in October. I had a mass shooting homicide trial where a 20-year-old girl was killed in last October, and we had to get through that trial. I didn't want to be in the race before that was done, to make sure that the entire focus was on getting justice for the victim in our community. And then we got into that race in October, and our focus from day one has been on a general election message, and that's been paying dividends as we're driving that broken promise and the failures at the forensic testing with the crime lab or fentanyl epidemic, or how political the office has gotten.
Yeah, let's talk about your kind of your career as the Fond du Lac DA. You've been doing that for 14 years now, and
In
you've
my 14th year.
yeah, that's fantastic. And you've handled everything from human trafficking to homicides. You talked about mass shootings, or probably drug trafficking and some of those related crimes. Can you just talk a little bit about some cases or some initiatives that you're most proud of or most stand out to you, and you think why that matters to voters?
Like I said before, I love what I get to do as a DA, and you name the type of case, I've probably personally prosecuted it. I've probably done almost 20 different types of homicide trials in my career. And a lot of those cases stand out because of how closely we work with the victim's family and trying to find justice for them. And one of the things I have just been so amazed working with these families. We are seeing families at some of the worst moments of their life, and we see the kindness, the compassion, the patience that they have through what's often a lengthy court process. And one of the other things that we see sometimes is forgiveness. And we really, in some of the worst moments, get to see the best of our community in these families in fighting for justice for them. But sometimes it's not always what the public might see as the most significant case. One that really kind of stands out to me was, after my surgery, I went in for my first appointment for the post-surgical checkup. And whenever we go into the doctor like that, they're usually going to, take your weight, do your blood pressure, oxygen level, all that kind of stuff. And the nurse is doing that. And after a little bit, she goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't recognize your face. And then she started to describe how she was a victim, and her daughter was as well, in a domestic violence case in Fond du Lac County. And she was just thanking me for how I had invested my time in that case, and how her and her daughter were in such a great position, and how great things were going in life because I took the time to care and help make sure we got a good result in that case. And those are the things that prosecutors get to do day in and day out across Wisconsin. It's not always the cases that make the headlines. It's those cases the public may never know about, that you can make such a difference in someone's life and helping them be able to move forward with a wonderful life. I can think of another guy. I was running a 5K in Fond du Lac. It's probably almost 10 years ago now. And he came up to me and asked if I was the district attorney, and I said yes. And then he said I prosecuted him. So I'm like, well, this probably isn't going well. But he thanked me. He ended up going to jail for a bit, but he talked about how it changed his life. I think he won the race that day too. And we get those little stories where people, we don't do it for the thank yous, but when you get to see that type of impact in someone's life, and it's really special, the opportunity that we get to do. But I could think of, from cold case homicide homicide that I've worked on, a human trafficking case from somebody that was an illegal immigrant where she was trafficking her own daughter,
Oh,
and
wow.
just some of the awful things that we see. But I get to work with some amazing law enforcement that often makes our jobs a heck of a lot easier as prosecutors with the great investigations that they do. And we're blessed in Fond du Lac County to have some amazing law enforcement that we get to work with.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually could say I had a similar experience. So I worked for Van Wangard on his state senate race, and he's a law enforcement guy, and he remember was with him knocking a door, and he said, "Yeah, you arrested me a long time ago," and the guy's like, "Yeah, I kind of deserved it. I'm going to vote for you." So those cool moments like that, he said it's got to be it's
Yeah.
heartfelt to know that like not only someone you prosecuted and they went to prison, but they came out and they're changed, and like that rehabilitation actually happens in prison.
It
So.
really can. And one of the keys, it's accountability. Before I
Mhm.
became the district attorney, I spent about 2.5 years in private practice, and I did, juvenile law, mental health, a little bit of bankruptcy and criminal defense. And I would, be sitting across from clients, and they would not be concerned sometimes about what the potential penalty was going to be in some of those sentences. And they know where the line in society is, and then they judge if they want to cross that line based on what the perceived punishment will be for them. And that's what
Mhm.
makes that deterrence so important, that we make sure that when we are working with law enforcement to try and get these cases charged, secure the convictions, and we have the evidence to do it, and then make sure the accountability is there, that they don't want to commit crimes in the future and other people don't want to commit
Mhm.
crimes based on what we're seeing. And that's the mentality we do our best in Fond du Lac County to adhere to.
That's awesome. Awesome. So in Fond du Lac County, you launched their first drug court. So how does that, I guess, work or translate to tackling fentanyl and the drug crises that are hitting families across the state?
Well, that was something I campaigned on when I first ran for DA back in
Mhm.
2012, and we had a great team, grant writers and others that helped make that happen. I was just one piece of that happening, but drug court has been really great to see, where we get, when I get to some of the graduations where somebody's gone through the program probably over a year, sometimes 2 years of trying to get their life back on track, and then you see them at graduation and how happy their family is, or their friends, that they've
Mhm.
got their child back, and you see that they've got a job, they're working, they're moving their life forward. One of the biggest challenges that I see, though, is for drug court, sometimes it has to be sometimes a more significant case for somebody to try and get that help, and
Mhm.
some of those people don't want that help.
Right.
There's often a reason maybe that they've gotten to that point, but then we have other people that are battling through addiction, that they and their family want the help and that treatment, but they may not qualify for it, strangely enough, because they haven't done something serious enough. And that's really where we need, in my opinion, to be trying to direct those resources to people that haven't graduated to the more serious crimes, so that we can help prevent those from happening before their addiction snowballs too far. But people have to want the help as well, because one of the things, I've sat across from too many moms and dads that have buried their child from an overdose, and it's
Mhm.
predominantly been fentanyl, especially recently. And those are some of the most difficult cases to, number one, prove, with the challenge law enforcement and that we have to prove that in court, but just the impact that that has on parents. And we are very aggressive in going after those types of cases to try to find justice for those families, because so many families never get justice in those overdose deaths.
Mhm. That reminds me a little bit about something that we worked on when I was in the legislature on the Veterans Affairs Committee. So there's at Fort McCoy, there's Challenge Academy, which is this kind of like not quite juvenile hall sort of thing, but it's like a military sort of thing where these kids who are starting to commit those crimes or starting to kind of go down that path can course correct and opt into this program. So you talk about programs where people are course correcting and coming out and having jobs and being able to graduate. Yeah, anything that we can do before it gets too far along is really helpful.
No, programs like that are fantastic, and there's only so many resources to go around, but it's great when we see people taking advantage of that and really turning their life around, and it
Mhm.
can be done, and it's just great to see there's been an investment in that across the state in different areas.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you were named Wisconsin District Attorney of the Year just recently. So talk about that recognition. What does it mean to you? What does it say about the type of prosecutor you are, and how that's going to carry over to when you're Attorney General?
It's it's an individual award, but I don't. I got the award, but it's really an award, in my opinion, of my staff, my other attorneys in the office, my paralegal, Danny, who is just outstanding office manager. We've just got such a great team in the law enforcement that I have the privilege of working with. But, I think I did like 4 different homicide trials last year. And in 2023, had a couple very challenging homicide trials. And I was also the president of our district attorneys association. And as the president of our association, it's a bipartisan group, and we work with the governor's office and legislature, predominantly joint finance, to try to help craft what should the budget look like for prosecutors, and also working as a justice coalition with some of our other public safety partners. And we were incredibly successful in that bipartisan process in delivering more resources, not just for prosecutors, but even for public defenders, so that we could help make sure that we could hire people to take these critical jobs across the state, because we couldn't hire anyone based on where the funding levels were. And we've seen a huge improvement in that. And we know there's more work to go, especially in some of our rural communities where it is still difficult to not just attract attorneys, but could be doctors, nurses, and other professionals, where we still have hurdles to go in some of those areas. And we've been actively having discussions with the legislature on what that could look like to try to help in some of those rural communities. But I think, the process of helping deliver those results, and it's a team. Nothing that we do is ever an individual achievement. It's always something we do as a team, and some of us get a little more credit than others at times, but we have a great board that works really well together to help deliver these results. And some of the work that we've seen and done in the courtroom with these different types of homicide cases that I've done at trial, it's really humbling to have received the award, but it's something that I share with the entire team that I get to work with.
That's great. Yeah, you kind of touched on it, but I think there's a perception, I guess, that it's the more urban communities that are struggling with having enough DAs or enough public defenders. But it translates to rural communities too. I think there's almost a very similar need and gap in terms of how many they have versus how many they need.
Well, and one of the things we did working together again in the most recent budget with our association, we saw, I think it was, ultimately over, I think, 60 prosecutor positions that we added across Wisconsin. And so that's fantastic. One of the challenges, we don't always have that many new graduates coming out of the law school. So it becomes tough to hire that many new positions at once. And it creates a bit of a, musical chairs with some people that are a prosecutor moving closer to home, or maybe where they went to school, things of that nature. And then that's where it starts to make it more difficult for some of our rural communities to be able to hire somebody. And so we're going through that process right now, that hopefully we'll be able to get some more success in the upcoming budget next year to help some of our rural communities better get some of those attorneys into their offices as prosecutors.
Yeah, a great goal to have. So, would you say that that's what you talk about your goals as Attorney General? Would you say that that goes along with, ending the backlog? Like, what's the biggest, I guess, issue going on at the Department of Justice right now that you see that needs to be corrected?
So it's not, just the issue I see. It's what I hear from
Mhm,
sheriffs and DAs across Wisconsin, and it's the crime labs. We have
mhm,
amazing analysts at our crime labs. I've gotten to work with so many of them, for the testing that they do, testifying at trial, and they do such wonderful work helping us secure these convictions. But they're being failed by the leadership from our attorney general, or lack thereof. And so what we're seeing, 2019, there were more positions, analyst positions added to the crime lab, including DNA and ballistics. And in 2023, I actually did a press conference. I worked hard behind the scenes to help get some more analyst positions. Those were toxicology
mhm.
positions in that state budget. And what we're seeing in so many of these different categories, the forensic testing, it's taking longer. And so people wonder, well, what does that mean for me? Well, the forensic testing, our attorney general is in charge of that for the entire state. So that's fingerprints, that's DNA, that's ballistics, that's drug testing, it's blood testing. They're in charge of all of those things so that law enforcement can have that evidence to either maybe identify who committed a crime, they can arrest somebody, and that as prosecutors, we have that evidence that we can then secure that conviction in court. And so what we are seeing happen now is it's taking longer to test less evidence at our crime labs. And it's congesting our court calendars because sometimes we're not getting these test results until very close to jury trial, which makes it hard for a defendant to prepare for trial and cases can get adjourned. And so what does that mean? Well, sometimes defendants are still out on the street. So we've got a victim that's now waiting for justice. We have a defendant that's out on the street and maybe committing new crimes and new victims because we couldn't get that evidence sooner. And if we got that evidence sooner, we'd be able to close some of these cases faster because we wouldn't be waiting all the way to trial. And that would clear the congestion in the court calendars and help move things and get justice faster for victims. And so this is an issue that has an impact on all 72 counties in Wisconsin. And it shouldn't be this way. We saw a nonpartisan audit of our crime labs that was released in 2024, and it showed that they had I think it was seven less DNA analyst positions filled compared to 2020. The positions that I helped him get in the 2023 budget over a year later hadn't even filled them yet. And so when we look at DNA, for example, our attorney general bragged, I think it was in 2020, that he said, hey, we got more analysts in the budget. We just got to get them trained. We've got better technology to do this more efficiently. And we're testing less because of the policies that he put in place. And he said there was going to be a dramatic improvement in the turnaround, or what we would call testing times, for DNA. That was in 2020. So now we're in 2026, and we're seeing him on average, compared to his predecessor, taking over twice as long to test less DNA. It makes no sense and has created a bottleneck in parts of our court system, making it more difficult to get justice for victims. And what we're gonna do is make that the number one priority as your attorney general, is to fix what's going on at the crime labs, to make sure that we're filling the analyst positions all the time when we have vacancies. And if there are any work from home policies that are limiting the ability of these analysts to do their job, we're going to be modifying that to make sure that they're able to be in the labs doing that critically important work that's needed, so that we can drive down those testing times, get the evidence to law enforcement and prosecutors faster, to get justice for victims quicker, and get dangerous criminals off the streets.
Wow, that is a really good way of explaining what the crime lab actually does. Because you're right. I think if you're not someone who's in kind of the justice system, whether it's as a victim or a defendant, or as a one of the lawyers, it's tough to understand what that really means. So thank you for explaining that. But you're also
Well,
telling me.
and
So go ahead.
the wild part, though, is this was his campaign promise: forensic testing.
Mhm.
And then he's made other promises since then that have been broken. And that doesn't even touch on we all remember, probably many of us, the rape kit ads. We saw them in the Supreme Court race last year. And then we saw them when he first ran for attorney general, just talking about how these kits needed to be tested. And then once they were all tested, he said, well, the hard work is just getting started, or something to that effect, essentially that they needed to get all of these convictions, because obviously anytime we see a sexual assault, we want to get justice for that survivor and convict the person that did that horrific sexual assault. And so when we actually now, in almost 8 years, our attorney general, they have a website, it's SAKI, a Saki website, Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. That website tracked these cases as they were filed in court and what the resolutions were. The attorney general has failed so miserably in this that they stopped updating that website, his own website, 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I think that website showed, I'm guessing it was about 10, maybe 10 convictions across the state. They may have gotten a few more than just that, but there were over 4,000 of these rape kits tested, and less than 15 convictions in 8 years. And that was a massive campaign promise from him to get these convictions. And we just didn't see it. And so he either lied and misled Wisconsin about what the issue was, or it's been a colossal failure on our attorney general's part. And we always need to make sure that we're fighting for justice for survivors. But it sure is starting to look like he put sexual assault survivors as a political tool to try to win an election.
So you're also telling me, for the first time, this is first time I'm ever hearing this, that the attorney general does more than pop out like a groundhog every 6 months to sue the Trump administration? Because I feel like that's all Josh Kaul does, is just occasionally go in front of a camera, sue the Trump administration, join a lawsuit that 30 other states are doing or 20 other states are doing, and that's it.
Well, and that's another broken promise, whether it's the broken promises on the crime lab, broken promises on the rape kits, or on politics. Because when he ran, he actually campaigned and said the office was too political, and he's blown away the number of federal lawsuits that the office was involved in before he took over from his predecessor. And here's the pretty wild part, and there's a legal nuance here. So I think when a lot of people hear that the attorney general is involved in a lawsuit, they think he's doing all this, the legal work and doing the suing, right? Well, what he's actually doing is, the word is called joining. And so when you join a lawsuit as an attorney general, the attorney general's office from another state is doing all of that heavy lifting, and he is just signing his name at the bottom. So
Sure.
whether or not Josh Kaul's name is on that lawsuit or not, it's likely going to move forward to whatever result it has, whether he's involved or not. But what we're seeing is he's still devoting all of these resources to that type of review of, are they going to sign their name to it or not? And we see public safety put on the back burner,
Hmm.
where we see these issues with the crime lab. We see these issues with the lack of interest in addressing the fentanyl crisis that we've seen over the last few years in our state. And he's put public safety on the back burner and put his party politics over public safety.
That's yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's very succinct. And so, pledging to work to remove these backlogs, to be involved in prosecuting cases, that has to have helped you earn the support of the sheriffs and police associations across the state. Can you talk about what that says about your campaign or your vision, and how, as Wisconsin's top cop, that the police associations and sheriffs are getting behind you?
Yeah, when you think about, our law enforcement are the ones that risk their lives on a daily basis, whether it's going to a traffic stop, a shooting that might happen, other types of critical incidents, risking their lives to keep us safe. And they know how important our attorney general is as the top cop in our state. And they want someone that they can trust to be a partner with them in keeping our state safe. And to have the Milwaukee Police Association, some other associations we're going to be releasing in the next coming months. And then over half of our sheriffs across the state
Wow.
have already endorsed me. And it's bipartisan support that we have as well. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. We have sheriffs from both sides that want to see a change at our Department of Justice, to have somebody that they can trust leading our state. And it's a pretty sad state of affairs when in nearly 8 years, the attorney general hasn't been able to earn that support. And he's actually lost support from law enforcement, that they're lining up behind me because they want someone that they can trust. And it's not blind support either. They want someone that can tell them when we need to do things better, differently, or improve, and not just go along to get along. They want someone they can trust.
That's right. And you have a law enforcement family background as well, right?
Yeah, my dad was with our sheriff's office for over 30 years, retired as a patrol sergeant. I got to work with him for about 7 or 8 months before he retired when I was a DA, which was just, great having the buildings connected where I could walk down and grab a cup of coffee with my dad at work, which was
Hmm.
pretty special. My stepmom was a retired detective as
Oh,
well.
wow.
And so that's something, that I grew up in that law enforcement family and have really developed such an appreciation for the work that they do. Because when I was
Hmm.
a kid, I used to think, if my dad would get a page, and, back when pagers were a thing, and he'd have to, go out for a SWAT call. And I was more worried about my dad then, but he was a negotiator. So he's usually in the
Oh.
command truck drinking his coffee, he was more safe than many of the other, officers that would be on scene. And as I got older, you start to realize the most dangerous thing that my dad would do would be every day when you make a traffic stop or respond to a domestic violence call.
Hmm.
Just the unknowns that law enforcement walk into, and the stresses and trauma that you can see that they carry with them from not always a criminal scene, but it could be a fatal crash that they respond to, where there could be a young child involved. And I've responded to some of those, and it's just the awful things that they have to see so that we don't have to, and that we can continue to go about our lives and exercise those freedoms that we have. It's just amazing what we do, and they have earned our support.
Definitely. And your dad being a negotiator, him and your stepmom being in law enforcement, she being a detective, you were basically set. Like, your path was predestined to be a attorney, weren't you?
I always wanted to be a police officer. My dad never wanted me to do that, but it was pretty much impossible to get away with anything as a kid. You felt like he didn't just have eyes in the back of his head, but they'd be everywhere, because he would say, "I know where you were yesterday," or whatever, and he did, and he would never give up his sources. So
So there's no sneaking out of
he
the house, no trying to do anything under the legal age or anything like that.
No, he knew what was going on.
Oh man, extra set of eyes that are that trained. Yeah, you can't get away with
Yeah.
anything there. So, just want to talk a little bit about the Democrat candidates for governor right now, because this has got to be an interesting kind of thing for you to hear that they're talking about defunding the police, abolishing the police, even abolishing prisons. Like, how far? I know that's a minority position from that's not even based in reality, but you're so different, like being a pro police, pro
Yeah.
pro legal, as the DA. Like, just talk a little bit about like how crazy the leftists, I guess, go on with that.
It I would, I think what we have to start doing is when they say it, we have to believe that's what they want to do.
Hmm.
So when someone like Francesca Hong says she wants to abolish the police, she wants to abolish prisons, we should take her at her word that that's what she wants to do. And what's really, I guess, disappointing and shameful is our attorney general in an interview earlier this year. He was asked how he would feel, paraphrasing here, but like, how would you feel about being on the ballot with some of the anti police sentiment from some of
Hmm.
the candidates for governor? And he punted. He couldn't condemn the comments of Francesca Hong wanting to abolish the police or abolish prisons and things of that nature because he doesn't have the backbone and will put his
Hmm.
party politics over public safety time after time. And it's just a broken promise that we see from our attorney general time after time, that we need an attorney general that's going to be our top cop, that actually wants to do it. And he clearly doesn't want to, or he's afraid of the Democrat Socialists of America, or the left wing base of his party, that he has just become more and more radical, and his silence is acquiescence.
Yeah. And so another one of the candidates, talk a little bit about campaign finance. You have a candidate who doesn't know how much money she has going on. Do you, I guess, can ask you as someone with a legal background, like, it seems suspicious at the very least, and maybe criminal at most, that Sara Rodriguez has gone from having like 1.2 million to 200,000 to 34,000, but also 650,000, but back to 34,000. Like, that seems unique and problematic.
It's been, from about a week ago Sunday, we saw the press release come out late at night, the press conference the following Monday, the double campaign entries on the January finance report with an extra, I
Mhm.
think it was like 135,000, and then the changing reports and numbers that she's given at various times. And we have campaign finance laws in Wisconsin. Our attorney general's office, the Division of Criminal Investigation, that's the law enforcement agency our attorney general's in charge of, has a public integrity unit. And our Attorney General, Josh Kaul, needs to activate that public integrity unit to investigate the campaign finance situation of Lieutenant Governor Sara Rodriguez's campaign. Because from her own words, the Lieutenant Governor, as she was talking about these things that were done, it's illegal to intentionally falsely file a campaign finance report.
Mhm.
And when we're seeing some of the reporting on this with different zip codes or missing middle initials and the sheer volume of entries, that's something that needs to be
Mhm.
investigated. And our attorney general's office has the skills, they have the resources and the expertise to do it. And I know that because as a special prosecutor, I've worked with the public integrity unit in election related cases and seen the great work that they're capable of doing. And for once, Attorney General Josh Kaul needs to set aside his partisan politics, open this investigation so that Wisconsin knows, was it a crime? If so, who was involved in it? Or was this incompetence? Because one thing that's really important, I think, for us to remember, these elections have such a profound impact on who leads our state. And we saw, based on some of the finance reporting and other things that the Rodriguez campaign appears to have been doing, that may have led to someone like David Crowley dropping out of the race, or other endorsements and other Democrats trying to circle the wagons around Lieutenant Governor Rodriguez. And it might have been built on a fiction. And Wisconsin deserves to know who was responsible for that. If there was a crime committed, they should be held accountable, and our attorney general should be the one investigating and needs to ensure that an investigation is opened by his public integrity unit.
Now I'm going to ask a follow up, because we're recording this mid morning on Friday the 17th, and my phone is blowing up. I don't know if yours is. I'm still getting all these alerts. That doesn't change if she drops out of the race, as she just did a moment ago, does it?
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow, that
Breaking that
I have
news to
not
you
seen
right
that.
here.
My
Yeah.
my phone is on silent right now, but no, dropping out of the race would not change the potential violations that may have occurred. And it probably was the right thing for her to do, given all the controversy that's
Hmm.
surrounded it and the limited cash that she had on hand. But the investigation still needs to continue and needs to, be started to ensure that whatever happened doesn't happen again, because we don't want a future campaign to say, well, if we just do this a little bit different, maybe we can skate by. There needs to be
Hmm.
an investigation and accountability to make sure this never happens in Wisconsin again.
Agreed. Agreed. So, Eric, we have three questions that we like to ask every candidate that comes on the show. So, the first one is if you could pick an iconic Wisconsin spot, supper club, brewery, Packers game, tailgate, to hold a voter rally, where would it be? What would it look like? And what do you want to talk to voters about?
One of my favorite things in Wisconsin, when you go to a Packer game in the winter at a night game and you get the snow falling, it is just such a magical moment in Wisconsin. And it would be amazing to have, a late October voter rally, get some early snow and pack Lambeau with some like-minded conservatives energized to come out and take our state back in November. I just think that would be just such an electric atmosphere. And we'll throw our, your Carhartt or your Blaze Orange on and stay warm and get the hand warmers.
I was gonna say that's one of my favorite things about those games is the fans aren't wearing as much Packer gear, but they're all wearing blaze
Yeah.
orange, and you can tell. And you can tell. I've been to a couple of those games, but this year it's gonna be a little tougher to get to a lot if you're someone who has to drive up because I think 6 out of the 8 home games are island games, either Thursday, Sunday, or Monday night. So not as easy to get to games this year.
That is true, but hopefully we'll have a good season. See when Micah Parsons can come back and
Yes.
be, you know,
Well, we could
we'll see what
spend a whole.
happens.
We'll have you on for a whole episode. We just talk Packers
There we
football.
go. Love
So,
it.
growing up or serving in Wisconsin, what's one lesson that you've taken away from the state, whether it's family farm or your family background, small town festival, hunting trip? What's something that shapes your personal and political
Yeah.
philosophy?
So I'm a competitor. Loved sports growing up, running competitively, and in remember ninth grade basketball, we whenever we go into the locker room during halftime of a game, our coach would always ask, "What's the score?" And we were instilled
Mhm.
0-0, and we had been up every game, but it was still 0-0. And one game we go into halftime and he says, "What's the score?" And we say 0-0. And no, and he flips out because we were losing. And
Mm,
so that was just like the natural reaction, right?
mm,
And so one of the things kind of learned is we have to play like we're from behind,
mhm.
especially in politics in a state like Wisconsin with how close these statewide races are. And, as another, I was junior year in high school running a cross country race and I was stopping my watch at the line and one of my teammates passed me because I let up just momentarily to stop
Sure.
my watch.
Sure.
And so we run through the tape, we don't slow down. And so that means we have to play like we're behind all the way to November 3rd, running through the tape, not slowing down, not worrying about what the polls say or anything else. We just have to make sure we get this done. And we can do that if we all stand together and all run through the tape and help get others out to vote and make sure they're talking about the importance of winning in November.
No, I love those analogies. And, I'm someone who's hyper competitive, but also completely unathletic. So that's why I can think I gravitated towards politics is you don't have to work, you don't have to physically be strong or fast to run a
Yep.
race. So last question we have for all our candidates, you get to wave a magic wand, set a day one policy, a rollback, a progressive policy without worrying about, and I guess not for you necessarily, but votes or anything that, would stand in your way. So what's one thing that you want to set as a day one policy for the Attorney General's office?
Yeah, if we had a magic wand at our Department of Justice to roll something back as if it may have never happened, it would be getting rid of any DEI in hiring,
Hmm. Hmm.
anything related to that at our Department of Justice, because we need to make sure when we're hiring people for public safety positions or to enforce the law civilly, that we're hiring the best and the brightest available to represent the state of Wisconsin or keep people safe. And it's one of the things when I do a jury trial and I'm doing my closing argument, almost every trial, one of the things I talk about to our juries is when you go into that jury room, you set aside any biases you have. It doesn't matter what someone's skin color is, what their race is, how much money they make, how little money they make, how popular or important they might seem. None of that matters. Doesn't matter what their gender is. You make a decision based on the facts and the law,
Hmm.
and that's what makes our legal system the envy of the world, is that you can walk into any courtroom and have the law decided on your facts, not based on any of those things. And when we have people that we hire in that similar fashion, then we're getting the people best capable of defending and protecting us here in Wisconsin.
Couldn't agree more. No, that's a great policy to have on day one. So Eric, final question. Where can people go to find out more about you? Drop the socials, website, all of that.
You can go to erictoney.com to learn more. You can join the team there. You can donate. You can learn more about me. Love to earn your support in November. I always like to say one of the reasons I talk about my health issues, not just because that's why I'm running, but we want other people to also take care of their health. And as I like to joke, I'd also like to make sure you're still here in November because I'd like to earn your vote then as well. But you can also go on social media. We're on X, Facebook, Instagram, and any of those, and would love to earn your support. Reach out if you have any questions. And Justin, I really appreciate the opportunity being with you today.
Oh, thank you. No, this is great. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad we got a chance to sit down. Hope the listeners like it too. And good luck on the campaign. I'm really, I don't say this about everyone. I want you to win a lot. Like we need you there. And, if we get Tom Tiffany, I'd love that. We need that. That's 101. But the idea of having a governor and an attorney general from a different party is a disaster. So we need Tom Tiffany. We need Eric Toney. And I can't wait to see that on November.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And with that, thank you again to everyone who's tuned in for the first time, as well as our OG listeners who are making this pod an absolutely amazing success. If you like what you hear, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We'll read your reviews on air, and we've been having a great viewership on YouTube lately. So if you're there, make sure to leave us a comment for us to read. If you want to check out more of our content, Heartland Post, we were covering Sara Rodriguez and David Crowley all day, and we're going to do it probably all tomorrow. So of course, if you want to learn more about us or have any questions, hit us up at email at newfashionpod@gmail.com. Find us on Rumble, YouTube, and Substack at New Fashion Conservatives, on X at New Fashion Pod. I'm at Justin E. Phillips.
Robin Voss Stan.
And have a better week than Sara Rodriguez did.